Welcome to the Own Your Life podcast, where our goal is to help bring hope, healing, and peace by sharing our experiences and inspiring you to own your life.
Hey guys, welcome to the Own Your Life podcast. And today we are going to be talking about self-talk. And I think this one really affects everybody in everyday life. To start off with, I just wanted to kind of read to you guys a little bit about what to say when you talk to yourself from Shad Helmstetter. And he
amazing book, by the way.
Yes, it's an amazing book to get it if you don't have it. He says, as much as 77% of everything we think is negative, counterproductive, and works against us. At the same time, medical researchers have said that as much as 75% of all illnesses are self-induced. So if that's the case, and you're constantly taking in all this negative information along with how you're negatively thinking, then obviously that's going to affect how you communicate on a daily basis and who you communicate with on a daily basis and how you communicate with yourself. So
absolutely,
that's a
huge.
Little bit of an intro there, but I'm going to let, and I know that, so that's a lot of background. Obviously we've been on this journey for a little while as far as,
personal growth development. Yeah.
As far as, growing ourselves every day. Mm-hmm. And I think that, when you think about that, I mean, how does that hit you, hon?
Oh, that's huge, because self-talk for me is probably one of the most important things that I've worked on. Mm-hmm. My self-talk, I would say, 4 years ago was very, very negative, especially with bodybuilding when we were on that journey, and we still work out. We're just not, competing at this point. But my self-talk, even in the gym, was very negative. Like name calling myself in my head, like all kinds of explicitives that I was calling myself to lift heavier. And yes, sometimes it worked, and I did lift heavier and I did well in the gym. However, longer term effect of that is negative. Whereas if I was encouraging myself, thinking like, yeah, I can do it, you can lift this weight, blah, 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 just all the positive, that would have probably had the same or better effect on my actual performance, and longer term would have been a lot healthier for me than to name call myself, belittle myself, put myself down if I couldn't do a certain thing. And not just in weightlifting, but just in my life. I was such a negative thinker, and not that I don't get negative thoughts now, because I feel like we all do. It's impossible to shut it off, but it's being mindful of that, being self-aware of how you are talking to yourself, because let's face it, we talk to ourselves more than anybody else talks to us. And if you think about that, that's 100% true, because just stop doing what you're doing, even put this on pause for a second. And what are you thinking about? Is it positive? Is it negative? Because we're thinking thoughts all day long, and we're saying things to ourselves in our heads all day long. And if majority of what you're saying to yourself is negative, then, maybe it's time to turn that around, to stop those thoughts, because you can. We do have the power to stop those thoughts, take control of them, and think positive things. And I've also heard Ed Milet say, which if you haven't caught that so far, we are definitely fans of Ed Milet. And he has said, not everything you think is true. So just because you think something negative about yourself or somebody else or whatever it is, a situation, that doesn't mean it's true. So you don't have to believe everything you think, but it is important to be conscious of what you are saying to yourself every single day. Mm-hmm. And to be positive, to be more positive, to be encouraging, because you're the one who's saying the most things to yourself. So you might want to make that encouraging instead of negative, and that's greatly going to change your outcome in life.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think that there is actually a lot of people, without knowing it, you are self-sabotaging yourself.
Absolutely.
With certain situations, because a lot of times, for instance, if you were maybe going to get a promotion and you go for the interview and stuff like that, and you don't think you're worthy of that, you can self-sabotage yourself into thinking that you don't deserve that. And because of that, you may not do well in that interview because you've self-sabotaged yourself. And now
people are going to feel that.
People are going to feel it. And obviously if you're going into interview for that position and you self-sabotage yourself, I mean, there's not really a whole lot you can come back from on that. And I think that in times in life, I know that there's been certain times where I've self-sabotaged myself in certain areas of my life, even down to doing weightlifting and stuff like that. I mean, there's certain times where I thought maybe I wasn't even worthy of being able to step on a stage with somebody because during the bodybuilding journey, because I didn't think I was far enough along, hey, I don't deserve that particular house. I don't deserve that particular watch. I don't deserve that particular thing because I haven't earned that yet because of where I'm at right now or whatever it is. And sometimes you don't deserve it. And that sometimes it is true. And other times you're just trying to keep yourself where you're at so you're comfortable. And so I think that comes back to a little bit of comfortability as well, making sure that you're, going to a stretch zone, not a stress zone.
Yeah. And I feel like we can actually be comfortable with negative self-talk because a lot of us have been programmed since we were young with negative self-talk. So sadly, that feels more comfortable because we're used to it. It doesn't mean it's more productive or right or encouraging, but we're used to it. So it's easy to drop back to it because it's comfortable. And it can be really uncomfortable to say positive things to yourself because you might not believe it. You might think, oh, well, that's stupid. I'm not good at this, or I'm not good at that, or I'm dumb, or whatever, like all of those negative thoughts. And it might feel uncomfortable to say like, no, you can do it. You got this. I believe in you. Like you might not believe yourself, but you have to keep doing it. It's the repetition. You have to repeatedly say nice things to yourself. And one of the things that I think about is, I can't remember where I read this, but it said, if you wouldn't say this to your best friend, why are you saying it to yourself? Because you wouldn't let somebody else talk like that to you. So why are you letting yourself talk like that to you? And that made me really stop and think about it. Like, yeah, why am I being so negative and so hard on myself, especially with my personality? And we can talk about personalities, on another podcast, but I am a choleric melancholy. This all comes from Personality Plus by Florence Littauer. Awesome book. Totally get it if you don't have it already, or you can take the quiz online. I'm not sure what the website is. It's probably personalityplus.com. Not 100% sure. You might want to Google it, but you can take the test and see what personality you are. And that is very helpful as well, just to see kind of, how you operate and what works for you. But for me, being a choleric melancholy, I am very critical of a lot of things, and especially myself. And perfection is something that I've struggled with as well, and I'm still overcoming. But wanting to be perfect has led to me having lots and lots of negative self-talk and trying to be perfect. And, oh, you didn't do it right, or you messed this up, or you're a failure because of X, Y, Z. And that honestly has not served me at all. So it's taken a lot of time for me to turn that around, and I haven't perfected it. Not that I'm ever going to be perfect, because perfection is very elusive. Let's face that. I've had to admit that perfection is just not realistic, and it's okay to slip up here and there, but to get on the positive self-talk and encouraging yourself is huge. And that's definitely been a huge area for me to work on and has made a big difference. Like in the beginning, I didn't even know that I could change how I thought, and what I thought about myself. I thought that I was set, you are how you are. That's how you were born. You can't change it. Very fixed mindset. And when I found out, it's not that I wanted to be fixed mindset. It's that I didn't know that I could change it. I didn't know that it was possible to be self-aware, to take control of my thoughts, to think positive things. And that has greatly changed even the person that I've become in the past, I would say 3-4 years, because of taking control of that and taking ownership of that, and really realizing that I can control how I think, what I'm saying to myself. I can encourage myself, even if nobody else does. I'm the one who talks to myself the most, so I might as well make it positive if I want a better outcome.
Absolutely. And I think that, going back to just the perfection stuff, I mean, that's been a struggle for both of us, really, in multiple areas.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think that sometimes we want to be so perfect, but you have to realize that sometimes you just have to start.
Yep.
And I think that nobody's going to be perfect. You're just going to have to start at some point.
Yep.
And one of our mentors has said that done is better than perfect. And I think that that's something that you have to program in your mind at some point, that, sometimes you just need to get started on whatever you're doing. And that's something that self-talk has taught us as well, is just getting started in different areas of our lives. And just so you guys know, my personality is choleric.
Almost all choleric. So
Yeah.
a lot of people have a main one and a secondary. So I'm a choleric melancholy. Matt is all choleric, pretty much. He has a little bit of points in some of the other categories, but he's pretty much choleric, which choleric is like driver, achiever. So you can imagine with me, driver, achiever, and perfectionist together is very hard. With some things, it's very hard.
Yeah.
But then Matt being complete choleric is all just driver, achiever, director, like, you just want to take action quickly and just get it done, get to the point, very blunt, things like that. So,
yeah. And I think that that's been one of the biggest struggles with me with self-talk too, is because sometimes you want to just stuff the emotion, and why isn't everybody, actually performing, and why isn't everybody doing this, and why isn't it perfect, and why isn't it this way, is very difficult for a lot of leadership positions. And, at some point you have to give people grace too. And I think that that's one thing that you have to self-talk yourself into actually saying, everybody does deserve to be able to participate. Everybody's going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. And you have to actually come back to that self-talk of relaying that to yourself too, because that's going to be a negative thought that you're going to have about other people and about yourself too, because now if your people aren't performing, now you're thinking that you're not being a great leader either. So I think that's a part of the self-talk as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it affects every single area of your life. I wasn't into sports as much as Matt was. I did more of like the theater background in high school. I loved it. I did backstage work. I was on stage. I did choir, show choir. I was a cheerleader at one point. So I didn't really have the sports background, but for you, Matt, since you played sports, I would say majority of your life, and you've always been an athlete, like what was your self-talk growing up, and did that evolve at all over time, or was it pretty similar?
I think it was just like yours. I mean, it was negative.
Yeah.
Because I think that a lot of times we're driven in certain areas of our life by, why aren't you better? Why can't you do this better?
That negative motivation.
Yeah. And that's only going to get you so far. And I think that's something that had to evolve for me to be able to get out of that negative mindset and to evolve into, somebody is working harder than you. Yes. But are they working harder than you every day? And I think that's the biggest thing, is we're all going to have off days, and how can you really prepare yourself for an off day? And that comes back to how you prepare every day. And that's to make sure that you wake up with the positive attitude, the positive drive, and to try and make yourself be a little better every day, and try and get that, if you're working it out, get that extra rep. If you're, maybe running, getting that extra mile, or whatever it is that you're doing. Maybe if you're in a phone call center, getting that extra phone call. It's one every day. In a
positive way.
In a positive day. And I think that's the thing is just doing 1% better every day. You're going to be a little bit better down the road. It's just getting that extra, just being a little extra, sometimes in a good way.
So I know some of you are probably thinking, well, how do I even know if I am being negative in my self-talk?
A lot of people say, I can't remember names.
This is from What Do You Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstetter. Still talking about the same book that we talked about at the beginning, just so you got reference.
Yeah, that's just my luck. I'm so clumsy. I don't have talent. I'm just not creative. Everything I eat goes right to my waist. I think that there's certain things that we're going to really, uncover with that, is that if you can really figure out how you are negatively talking to yourself, then you can really switch that programming and be like, I am lucky every day. I do work hard every day. I am the person that I need to be every day for my family, whatever that looks like for you, because everybody's different.
Yeah. And I feel like even with some of those examples, like I know you were kind of laughing there at the end, like, oh, everything I eat goes straight to my waist. And you might laugh at that. You might think that's funny because you've probably said it to yourself or you've heard somebody say it to themselves. And it might sound like a joking thing. Like people say a lot of negative things to themselves in a joking manner. It's still damaging. It still hurts the self-image. Even if it's like, oh, I'm no good at that. You go ahead. Like, I suck at that. Like, by saying that, you are negatively reinforcing yourself that you are not good at that, whatever it is. And that speaking, like actually speaking negative self-talk is so much more damaging than actually thinking it. Now, thinking it, obviously, we want to help people to change that, to think positive things. We can't stop all negative thoughts. But when you actually speak that negative thought, I think it's anywhere from like 50 to 70% more likely to happen when you speak something negative than when you just think it. So with that, just do not speak negative things. Like catch yourself before you say that, oh, that goes straight to my hips when I eat it or whatever. Like, don't say that. Don't like, you might think it, but if you don't say it, it's less likely to happen. So I think that a lot of us, with society, how we were raised, maybe your parents were really negative. Maybe you have a negative aunt that, every time she came over, it was just like, negative vomit everywhere. But it's going against that and changing that around to be positive, especially since it's so much more likely to be damaging to your self-image and to your life if you speak it. Just catching that before that even happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and just one example of that for me even is that every single English teacher I ever had, gave me the amazing red marker all over my essays and my papers. And I got some fantastics in there. And, I think that was a part of that. And I actually thought that I was just terrible at writing, period. But on the flip side of that is through growth and change and encouragement from Ashley, and other people, obviously, is that, I actually wrote a book and be out of that. So is it the fact that I didn't have anything to say, or is it the fact that they just weren't encouraging me the right way, or maybe teaching me the right way, or thinking the right way about how to write?
Yep. And that's not a knock on teachers, but I do feel like teachers have a huge influence, especially teachers of younger kids, because kids are so absorbent of what they hear and what they see, that if majority of that information is negative or they're being put down, whether it's a teacher, a parent, a coach, anybody, relative, that they're going to hang on to whatever that negativity was, and that could shape the rest of their life. Like, oh, I'm no good at math because, my third grade teacher told me I was bad at it. Like, whatever. That wasn't actually said to me. That's just an example. But people internalize those things and live the rest of their life with that. And our goal is to, help people become aware, because we weren't aware of it. We weren't aware that we could change how we talk to ourselves, how we think, how we talk to each other, because a lot of that negative talk comes out to other people. And that's also damaging. Like I just said with the, the teacher, parent, coach reference, that it's so important to be positive in, and not just like obliviously positive, because obviously not every situation in life is positive or happy, but it's to be mindful of what you're saying and not reinforce the negative patterns that we have in our brains.
Absolutely. And I think that's the biggest thing is that it's going to take time for you to realize exactly what you are saying to yourself, and also not to internalize it anymore is the next step in that as well.
Yeah. And the cool, like scientific part of all that is it's also in the book. So all of this is coming from, Shad Helmstetter's What Do You Say When You Talk to Yourself, when we reference the book. And he talks about how your brain has neuroplasticity, which means that you can change the programming in your brain. It's like little roadways. So if you think about roads that are, paved versus roads that are crumbling apart. So you want the roads that have negative input in your brain to crumble. And the way that you can do that is by stop speaking and thinking those negative things. Because the more that you reinforce those, the more they're going to be paved, so to speak, that you're going to think that automatically. And by switching over to more positive thoughts, more positive talk, that's going to be more paved in your head. So when something does happen, you're going to have a better automatic response than you would have if you didn't do that. So now, like, an example is if something bad happens, or I guess like a trial happens for Matt and I've changed my thinking to, I'm thankful for this opportunity because now we can, do X, Y, Z or whatever. I'm thankful that we're going through this because we're going to learn something from it. And not thinking, woe is me. Of course this would happen to me because I'm blah, 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 all this negative stuff. And not that I'm perfect at it by no means, but I feel like I've worked a lot on my positive self-talk to where I have a better automated response when stuff does happen, that it's not, ultimately negative.
Yep. And I have less Clark Griswold moments.
From holiday, what is it?
Christmas Vacation.
Christmas Vacation. I was gonna say
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Oh, that's definitely a must-see every Christmas.
Yeah. So, I think that's a part of that too, is that, once you grow and you change and you realize that you're getting to the point of being able to speak negative, and if you can stop yourself from speaking it, it's going to change every single day of your life, just because it's going to change the way you speak to other people. It's going to change the way you speak to yourself. It's going to change the way that you operate in everyday aspects.
Absolutely. And it's just a little bit at a time, just one step at a time is going to make a big difference.
Absolutely. It's just the small decisions you make every day make a huge impact on your life, just like we talked about in the last podcast. And in closing, guys, I just want to leave you with a little bit of a positive affirmation. You guys are worthy of changing your life. You guys are worthy of positive thoughts. You guys are worthy of excelling in every area of your life. And you are worthy of everything that has been given to you and every chance has been given to you. And you have the ability to perform at the highest levels. With that, make sure you guys follow us on Instagram at ownyourlife.co and on our website at ownyourlife.co.com. And thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. We appreciate everything you guys continue to do, and make sure you follow and comment on everything that we have. And we'd love to be able to hear from you. And remember, guys, own your life, because your life is your responsibility.
Thank you all for listening. If this added value to you, please click subscribe and rate and review us. You can also find us at Own Your Life Co. on Instagram and Facebook, and ownyourlifeco.com. And as always, own your life, because your life is your responsibility.